So, I mean, how much was on the front of your area?
I'm not going to be ridiculous and say that it was inches by any means, but I mean, like when you see your normal driveway and the size that it normally is, and you can see that it's covered in a full layer of ash, I would say it was probably like, centimeter thick or something like that, but still pretty shocking.
That's crazy. So you had a ton of ash all over the deck of your driveway. I didn't have a ton of ash here for the first couple of weeks of the fire.
All right.
Because the wind traditionally comes from the southwest and blows northeast. And since the fire is northeast of us, it traditionally just continues northeast. But for some reason, the wind has started to like circulate now, and it's starting to pull the fire, smoke, all that south. And for the last few weeks now, it's been like ruminating over our valley and dropping all that ash. And it feels like we're next to a volcano.
Well, fires can kind of create their own ecosystem in a sense. They can screw with the weather in the area, especially the wind. And the bigger that it's getting now and how massive it's turned into, I can see that it's not only just big enough now that it's starting to finally reach us, but it's also just the weirdness of the wind and kind of the changing of directions in the jet stream that are probably going like, we're haywire right now.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, crazy. But we finally woke up this morning and went outside, and my wife was like, we have a ton of ash outside. And I was like, yeah, I have that at work every day and all over the car and everything. And she's like, well, we haven't had that out here yet. And I was like, I get it, because we're so far south of town.
As people get closer to the book cliffs, so I do wonder if they have more, but for
a lot more.
For a while there, it was just kind of like, somebody's got a wood fire going in their backyard without a spark arrestor, so we got plenty of ash and flakes that are just kind of settling on the vehicles around it. But this is something that's actually traveled over 15 miles to even reach us, so that's pretty nuts.
So what is going on, everybody? 4 people. What is going on? That's
Good morning.
For not telling anybody that we're going to do this, although it is Wednesday morning around 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it's
your two friends are still sitting there wondering sometimes,
five,
like, wait a second, are they actually going to do this?
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Good morning, Ray Rock. How you doing, brother? So the thumbnail, if you guys saw the thumbnail, is I actually took a video.
That's not Kuwait. That's our backyard.
Yeah, that's actually like 12 miles from my house. Hello, guys. Bass, right? About 2 weeks ago, I took a video. It's on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, it was from my back porch. I was just filming it, and it was a small fire. It was only about 7 acres is what it started, or 70 acres. Sorry.
I think it was 70 acres to start, yeah.
70 acres to start. It was just a small fire, but it looked like a volcano.
70 acres doesn't sound small, but as far as forest fires are concerned, that's mitigatable.
Yeah, it was like 70 acres. It was just like a small forest fire. I can't even remember what precipitated it. I think lightning. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, it was like
our very own governor. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, right, but no. But it was like 70 acres, but it looked like a volcano. And so I filmed it, put it on Twitter, and it's still up there. Very interesting, because it looked like a volcano. It was like 12 miles north of my house. So it's just really pretty close. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting looking. So I filmed it, put it on Twitter. And then it's unfortunately grown, and it continues to grow. In fact, it is now well over, it's reaching 100, it's almost 100,000 acres and growing. And it's now the 3rd largest fire in Colorado state history. And it's right close to our town. The pictures coming out of it are freaking insane. So really, really, really crazy. They've got one of the best jump teams in the nation up there right now. So there's a jump team that travels all over the U.S. and fights fires. And we had a team up there that were working 16 hours a day for 14 days straight, and they were doing their very best. And they were amazing firefighters from all over the valley, our valley. But we finally got the black team replaced by what we call the red team. The red team is a team that travels all over the United States. These guys jump in and they fight fires all over the U.S. And the red team finally arrived, and the red team's now fighting this fire, and they jumped in just a couple days ago to relieve the black team. The black team is what they call them. The black team worked 14 days straight to try to contain this fire. The fire is
That's
currently...
some impressive energy, guys. Well done.
Yeah, the fire is currently approximately 7% contained. 7% contained, which is not good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of rough.
I am hearing reading some interesting reports. It's kind of funny how it took this long to get that team out there. It's also interesting, too, that we have one of the world's largest air tankers to deliver water, and it's been grounded this entire time and not used once. So I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind that. I'm not sure. It seems like it was something initially that could have been a bit more mitigated. So politics aside, that's just weird to me. I don't know what's going on there.
There's some debate on that. We don't. Nobody's fully understanding what's going on with all of that, but 7% contained, closing in on 100,000 acres, third largest fire in Colorado state history.
Because we got that up there, but then we also got the Pine Gulch fire, which if any of you guys know about, I wouldn't say it's famous, but at least it's famous around here, is one of the coolest little nature preserves we have. Is called Hanging Lake. It's a pretty treacherous hike up crazy switchbacks. It's like 1.5 miles in, but up some pretty rocky
Glenwood
terrain
Springs.
by Glenwood Springs, and it's a cool little treasure. I've enjoyed visiting it a couple of times. It's unfortunate that the masses have ruined it for everybody else, because now they require you to buy a permit and you have to schedule a time to go up there, which there's no scheduled time. It's just you have to kind of hope that you go into the lottery system and can get a permit to actually hike up to this area, because I guess there was somebody who went online and swam through Hanging Lake and was talking about how this is so great, and I think everybody should experience this at least once in their life and come down to Colorado and swim in it. And now we had a bunch of people doing it, just destroying the area, being horrible human beings as they usually are when it comes to things that need to be preserved, and made it worse for everybody else. But all that to say, they were worried about it for a while there, and I need to go look into this again because I'm half and half right now. I see reports that say it's safe, guys. Here's an aerial photo. Look at it. The Hanging Lake's still there. And then everybody else who's now saying, oh, no, that's an old picture. Look, you should see the new picture. It's gone. So hopefully it's still there. I don't know. Maybe nature did what people were going to eventually do anyways. I don't know. But
so a lot of you probably, I don't know, a lot of you might know about Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And the reason why you would know about Glenwood Springs, Colorado, even if you're international, even if you're not from the United States, if you love anything about highways, interstates, roads, we made the history books, Colorado did, with the interstate that they built through Colorado. It's
the $1 Million Highway.
Yeah, and it's one of the top 5 most interesting, most expensive interstate highways ever built in the history. There's one in Hawaii that they built that made the top 5. There's one in Japan that's in the top 5. So there's like one in Japan. There's one in Hawaii, and in Glenwood Springs, Colorado is one of the top 5. So if you've ever read about any of the top interstates in the world,
for all you ice road truckers fans or treacherous road fans out there.
Yeah, and that is in there, and that's actually where the other fire is, and that fire is smaller than the fire we have, but that fire is actually worse right now because it's right on the interstate. It's actually lapping over the interstate and closed the interstate down. There's actually firefighters standing on the interstate trying to spray the fire on both sides to try to put out the fire.
Because we just got done repairing it from yet another rock slide not too long ago, and then now we got a fire to contend with. That Bar Highway has constant battles and struggles. I'd probably say at least every other trip that I take through there, which I probably go through that pass at least 3 to 4 times a year, and every other time there's usually at least a lane or one entire direction closed off, and they've had to put people on the same lane to just go down to one lane each. So.
Oh, for sure. And they're doing construction every single year. They have to. So they're always
a lot
down.
of upkeep.
Yeah, for sure. Matt B, what up, brother? Yeah, 2 streams in a week. Wow.
It's almost like things are getting back to normal, but not.
Not quite. But anyway, wanted to try out the game on my phone yesterday, so I had a little bit of fun with that. It definitely felt good playing the game in its natural environment. Felt like I could actually play a little better on the actual device. The only thing is because it's the Android device, Android records in a way audio and video that's variable rate, not constant rate.
Right.
And so because it's not constant rate recording, It's variable rate recording. My voice will match at times and will not match at times. And that's just the way cell phones work. A lot of people don't realize that.
Which is for a cool effect.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why when I did Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes videos on my cell phone back in the day, like 4 years ago and 3 years ago, I would never do my face. I would just record and talk over, and I would just...
Wasn't that because you were usually taking care of some other business sitting at the time when you would make those videos?
No, I was at work. A lot of times I was at work,
right.
And I would be like, before we'd open or whatever, and I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, I'm going to make a video about this. And I would just turn my phone and record literally my screen talking and blah, 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 and I'd make the video. But nobody knows when they can't see your face about variable rate or constant rate recordings, right? So it doesn't really matter. But the moment they can see your lips, constant rate, variable
what's
rate.
going on here?
Yeah, it matters. All of a sudden, constant rate, variable rate matters. So then you have to care about that. Well, then you have to get into important, audio equipment, video equipment, all of that stuff matters. Well, with all of this, it does it right. But with my cell phone, it's an Android device. iOS does the same thing. They record in variable rate. So what a lot of people don't realize is when you make a phone video where you record your face, it's actually going to record you in variable rate, which means at times your voice is going to match your lips.
But not always.
And at times you're going to look like you're a dubbed video. It says, great. I want to record it.
You can see my lips moving, but it's obviously somebody else's voice as I'm talking to you.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. But so the fire that's north of us, it shouldn't come south because we have a desert, kind of like a 5-mile desert between the town.
Got a decent mountain barrier too, but
Yeah,
we're also not a lot of foliage in between us and that forest that's higher in elevation than we are.
Yeah, we've got the Book Cliffs and then like a 5-mile desert and then town. And so it would have to literally jump like 5 miles, but it is coating our entire valley in ash. In fact, it feels reminiscent of being by a volcano.
It ain't no Mount St. Helens, but it's reminiscent of.
It is reminiscent because it's covering our valley in ash. And there's actually videos on Facebook, some friends of ours posted, where there are literal, in the ash, there are literal like pieces of tree and leaves and stuff coming, but the leaf is burned completely. It's an ash leaf.
Yep.
Like an ash leaf.
My sister saw one land on her vehicle. She walked over and touched it and disintegrated.
Yeah. And it's like an entire leaf floated in space, but it's all ash. But it stayed completely intact, landed, and they're like, oh, a leaf. And then they touched it and it was it just completely disintegrated when they touched it. But I've seen videos of that and I'm just like, man, that is crazy.
I got into my truck this morning after realizing how much ash was on my driveway, and we had this nice outline around our vehicles, and I was just like, oh, for crying out loud. And then I go to hop in there like, oh, it's too bad. Oh, well, open my door, big flurry kind of sucks into the cars. I go to get in.
You're like, no,
it's like, oh man, come on. That got my hair. Turned my truck on, AC kicked on. Face full of ash. It blew for a good solid minute, and my truck needs a lot of cleaning now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it gets into all your vents and everything like that.
Nice black leather interior, black carpet. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, your car's in the garage, so you should be all right.
Well, it's actually in the shop.
Oh.
Getting a new oil pan gasket.
What?
Yeah, getting
Already?
a new oil pan gasket. Yeah. Well, that's okay. It's 100% parts and labor.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, that's at least
had a
thing,
very minor leak, and I'm like, well, I got 100% parts and labor. We're getting that replaced.
Put that to the test.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting it replaced. So
that'd be nice to have, as my truck is nearing 300,000 miles.
Yikes. Yep. No.
But hey, I'm keeping that sucker running. By golly, I've saved myself thousands of dollars for being able to do all the repairs myself.
Bumper to bumper warranty, man. You got to use it while you got it.
My bumper to bumper warranty.
You. That's right. You. Well, the way it works, you guys know how this works. We are going to hang out with you for the next hour or so. We're going to be doing some of these cards, not these videos, these cards. We
picked video cards, cards. Card videos.
Answer the internet, answer the interwebs is the cards we chose. It's actually the name of the game anyway. Answer the internet. It's pretty fun. We got 5. He's got 5. I picked random ones because we're just going through the rest of the deck. We only have about so many left before we're done.
This game has hung on for a while. It's pretty
It
awesome.
It has been pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Great launch point.
Yep. If you know how this works, if you're new to the channel or whatever, then I'll explain it to you really quick like I always do. If you're watching live, that's the best way to do it. Watching live, you get to participate. So everybody who's hopped on so far, the 15 to 25 that are always here, you guys get to play along. You guys get to type in your answers and we will read them aloud while we're going. It's fun. We love reading all of your guys' thoughts. If you're watching this after the fact, that's still okay because I love reading your guys' comments after the fact. So while you're watching, you can put them in the comments section, and I love reading the comments after the fact. So make sure that you guys play either now or even after the fact and participate through the comment section, either through live or through after the fact. So
we like the interaction.
Let's figure out who goes first. I guess I won, so I go
was that
first.
A judo chop paper?
Yep. Okay. All right. To the world and to you, would you give up sports altogether if your dog, you don't have a dog, but let's pretend you have a dog. Yeah. So really quick, tell me what kind of a dog you would have.
What kind of a dog I'd have?
Yep.
If I could afford one and if they didn't become popular after I decided to want one, Frenchie. French bulldog.
So you got an amazing Frenchie at home. Mm-hmm. This guy's like 3 years old. You've fallen in love. He's absolutely amazing.
Well, that wouldn't be hard.
Yep. Would you give up sports altogether if your dog could live happy and healthy for as long as you wanted?
Ooh.
But you'd have to give up all sports. That includes every sport.
There was a time when this would be a hard question. Given what sports have turned into now, how it's nothing to do with feats of strength and, talent. It's all politicized. It's all destroyed and not even a fraction of its former self. That's an easy one. I would totally give up all that for a happy and healthy dog, especially when it's expensive as a Frenchie, because good grief, people see that particular breed and suddenly the vet bills go triple. But again, all just because it got popular. Why did you guys follow my lead? I mean, I decided to start looking into them for a while there. They were popular over in Europe for a little while and all that. Next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to get one of these dogs. They seem pretty tame, pretty chill. I can bring it with me everywhere. I don't have to feel bad about locking up in the house. Walks wouldn't take that long, blah, 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 yada, yada. Now, all of a sudden, you guys all like them, and they're all $5,000 a piece, and there's, puppy mills everywhere being horrible about that. But, yeah, if for the health problems that they have, if I could give him a happy, healthy life and he could stick around for 25 years, say, then yeah, see a sports, no issue there whatsoever, especially now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have time for sports, I'll be honest. I rarely ever see any sports. In fact, my last remnant of a sport was really the NFL, and I tried to cling on to the NFL. I used to watch college football a lot, but I let that go a few years back, although Huskers for life. And then the NFL a few years back, I just kind of let it go because I don't have time for sports. Really, sports take a lot of energy and effort, and it's one of those things when you're hanging out with your guy friends, it's like, they're like, oh, did you hear so-and-so got traded to so-and-so, got traded to so-and-so, and oh, his stats are this and stats are that. And I'm just like,
whatever.
I'm lost because I can't keep up. And so I just let it go. So I've already let go of sports. So can I have a dog? Could I have a really good dog? I would like a female Rottie, for female Rottweiler, a really well-behaved female Rottweiler. I think that'd be great. My youngest daughter would probably love me for days if I had a female Rottweiler. So
for a short period of time, I had a Belgian Malinois, and he was awesome, imprinted on me really well. Horrible set of circumstances as to why I had to let him go and I had to rehome him. But if I could get that dog back, that same dog, his name was Tucker at the time. I think it got changed to Marley, and then he eventually gave him away to somebody else.
Marley.
Yeah, as in Bob Marley. And I'm like, well,
oh, cool.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I would take that dog back in a heartbeat, especially the same thing for that one too. Totally give up sports altogether, no problem. Would have been nice.
Wow, Matt B says it's funny how the PGA is viewed more than the NBA right now. That is irony. Actually, that is significant irony.
Well, because they decided not to hop on the trendy bandwagon.
Very soon, the PDGA is going to be viewed more than the NBA.
Which is fantastic, too, because of all these ridiculous social distancing guidelines they have for sports and all that.
Yeah. The cardboard cutouts are getting coronavirus.
Yeah, the DPGA was definitely something that was on top of that already because there was already a small filming crew. They could already distance easily. There's usually only about 30 people involved in a whole filming of a tournament anyways. So
Yep. Yeah,
It was
crazy.
definitely. I can see why that one picked up for a while, but it's still ridiculous. The whole world's upside down, and people are trying to call it the new normal. It's just amazing to me.
Well, I'd have a healthy and happy dog over sports. You'd have a healthy and happy dog over sports. Anybody else out
Absolutely.
there? Before we go on to another question, you guys can kick it in the comments and we'll read them. But for now, I guess we can move on to the next one. But if you do have a thought, kick it in the comments and we'll read it.
At any time, whenever, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Ooh, well, this one's got pictures of a ray gun and a gun, so I like it already.
Nice.
Answer the internet. Would you rather live in the colonial times or the year 2500? I've already got a joke for this, but I'll keep it to myself. So would you rather live in colonial times, back in the day of old flintlock rifles, or the year 2500 where they'd have ray guns?
So I would have to say, because I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know, I would rather go back to colonial times, because my knowledge now in the colonial times, I'd be a demigod. And
Basic science. I'm a magician.
exactly. I would straight be a magician. Back then, they'd be like, how does he know this stuff? Direct pressure stops bleeding. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Like, no, they'd be,
Penicillin? What's that?
yeah, but no, for
Actually,
real.
was that around then?
They would be like, man, he knows, so much about, combat and everything like that. There's so many lessons learned by history. And so I'd much rather go back in time. And there are so many other things that are simpler in life. Colonial times would be the route to go for sure. Forward, I have no idea what 2500 would look like, and I would be literally being blindsided. And I'm one of those people where I kind of need to feel like I'm prepared for what I'm going into. And
It's only 480 years in the future.
oh my gosh, I would be so unprepared. I mean, there would probably be like talking dogs, and you know what I mean? Like, people would,
I mean, that's assuming as a society and as a world we make it that far. But
well, assuming the question assumes that's the case. So I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Bass Wright, by the way, said he has the same kind of dog as you, SureShot, when he was young, and he misses him so much.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Great
Matt
breed.
B says that nobody takes a knee at the PGA.
Yet.
Well, hopefully
We didn't see that at the NHL or in hockey. And I was like, hey, cool. Maybe I'll become a hockey fan now because it'll be worthwhile. Oh, never mind. They're starting to go that route too.
Yeah, that's too
Some people just can't avoid the limelight. And it's funny because you're taking a knee and virtue signaling for something that, let's be honest, people you don't care about. So why make a big show of it on public TV just to,
Well,
anyways.
things just become trendy, and sometimes there's peer pressure to do things they feel like they have to do instead of doing it because they feel the obligation to do it because of their conviction. They do
Although
it
the
because they feel
initial
the
message was
obligation.
overbloated because it's not to the point and the severity they try to claim it is, BLM took it and just absolutely destroyed it. I mean, talk about ruining a good movement. But when it comes to colonial times or 2500, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of in the same vein as you where, I would
Bass
probably...
Reich says, and it was 2,500, not 2,100, but Bass Reich says 2,100 for sure as a black dude because the colonial era wasn't a good era for him. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's
yeah,
a good
see?
point, brother. That's a good point. I don't know if I would go back to colonial era either. Actually,
Thank God for the privilege of living in America right now, though, right?
actually, I don't know. Depends on where in the colonial era you went.
True, yeah.
You could
There
go
were
back
some
and-
friendly areas around that time, so you might have been lucky to
Absolutely.
be born around then. But I see your reasoning there. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, my knowledge back in the colonial times would be amazing. But I think there's also an element of celebrity in 2500 being somebody from 400 years ago. People are wondering what it was like back then. And, did you still eat things out of a plastic tube? What? Do you guys have tube systems that travel you anywhere you want to go? Did you have teleportation back then? What?
You're like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to assume that I could catch up to the times around then, and it'd be amazing to see, where we've gone at that point. So I guess I'm kind of half and half from a intrigue standpoint, from a technological person standpoint, from wanting to see, also a political person wanting to see how far we survive and what it's actually like around that time. There's I think a slightly bigger part of me that want to go into the future. As much as the
Man.
past would be cool, I don't know. That's a hard one for me.
That is a tough one. Yeah, I guess I could see it. We've been there, done that with the colonial era, so I could see
Right.
you wanting to go forward.
And if you're a history buff like me, you constantly be going like, whoa, avoid that. Don't go into that battle. Oh, I can't go over there. Oh, look out for this
you'd
guy.
forever alter the course of history in a negative way.
Yeah.
By the way,
Abe Lincoln, no.
if you haven't seen Dark on Netflix, WTF.
Dark.
WTF is all I can say. Has anybody seen out there? Has anyone seen Dark? I'm on the season finale of season 2. Oh my gosh,
Right, bro.
mind blown. It's a time travel show.
Oh, okay.
It's a time travel show, and the hardest part about the show is, I'm just going to tell you the very basic. There's a cave that you can go into and basically time travel 33 years into the past or 33 years into the future. And what happened is basically, I'm not going to tell you how and why. You have to read the story, or watch the movie. But
3
basically,
years. That's interesting. How old was Christ when he was crucified?
well, because exactly. But there's this thing about our universe that every 33 years, everything's in like alignment. And this particular cave, they built a nuclear plant nearby, and because of the like crap from the nuclear plant, it like basically created a black hole or whatever of sorts, but it only gets activated every 33 years when everything's in perfect alignment by the universe. And anyway, this kid goes into this cave and ends up falling into this black hole that gets generated every 33 years. And so in this cave, there's this black hole that nobody knows about that gets generated every 33 years. He goes in, falls in, goes back in time 33 years, grows up, and ends up having to like live through 33 years. And then in the future, he's an adult and a child, because of course, in the future, he was a child that went into the caves, right?
So he's a
But he
child
also
in
had-
a man's body.
No, he's a child in the future, but he's also a man who had fallen back in time, who had to live through the future or live through the next 33 years. And then he has a child, but that child's actually now a bastard because he should have never existed, because Mickle.
So it fell right into the Terminator paradox, huh?
Well, anyway, yeah. And so, but now you can travel back in time 33 years. And then if you go into that cave, you can go back 33 more years behind that into the 20s. And then, or you can go into the future one, forward 33 years into the future into 2052. And like the world has come to an end. It's like apocalyptic. And so like,
Always doom and gloom in these shows.
there's all these like things. And this one kid is like trying to like Mickle's son, because this kid that falls back in time grows up as an adult, having traveled through time, keeping this secret, has a child, but this child is a bastard, right? Because he should have never existed, because he should have never fallen back in time and lived the secondary life. And his child is this child that's like flipping through time, trying to like solve everything. Anyway, you guys, dude, it is like mind blowing.
Twist of fate. Come to find out, his child is actually him.
The hardest part about this entire show is like everybody has like 3 selves, because like they have their child self when they were like a kid back in the like 50s. Then they have their like adult self in the like 80s. And then they have their like old self in the like 2019. And you have to like, oh, this is Mickle 2020. This is Mickle 1988 or whatever, and this is
you got to be really paying attention to who you're seeing right now.
And there's 3 different actors playing the same character, and you have to memorize the name and then memorize the character 3 different ways. Every single character, because every single character has 3 different characters anyway. But it is mind blowing. Oh, trust me, you cannot.
I guess it is meant to melt your noggin.
It is meant to melt your noggin, and I'll tell you, this is what I normally do when I watch a show. I'm like,
yep. I'm terrible about that lately.
You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to be like,
put one screen down to focus on the other
you
screen.
have to. And my wife and I, we often, this is what we do. We like pause and we're like, okay, blah, 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 blah. Is that what?
Just a little bit, get back on track. Okay, go.
Yeah, we have to like totally and completely process what it is we're talking about, and like, how did you see that? Did you see that? Is that who that person is? Is she?
I want to see
him?
it now.
Yeah, Dark. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen as far as how it was written. It is a German show. And so the lips don't match the words coming out of their mouth because it's in English.
Dubbed.
Yeah, it's dubbed. Yeah. But it's good. It is really good. So
really, really good.
Yep, I like it. All right.
No, Bassreich, you're true, or you're correct on that. With the last question, you wouldn't know exactly what time in the colonial times you'd be put in.
That is a good
and you couldn't
point.
choose that. So yeah, another good point.
Yep. And I guess if you had to just go wherever it took you, and that's the other thing in dark, they go back in time and they come out of the cave and they have no idea what's going on or, what's going to happen. And one of the guys gets thrown in jail and he's stuck in jail for 33 years and he gets put in a mental home and cause they think he's crazy.
Well, of course.
He's like, I'm looking for my son. And they're like, he's like trying to grab this child. That's his real son who fell back in time, but they're like, he's trying to kidnap the child. And they throw him in a jail and then into a mental institution. And he's stuck for 33 years in the mental institution. Anyway, it's nuts. It's really nuts. And so Bassreich makes a really good point. Going forward, you could have the same problem, but at least it would be in the future and they might believe you more than in the past. Because in the past, there's a lot of ignorance.
Yeah.
In the future, there'd be less ignorance about the past. Mm-hmm. Good point, Bassreich.
Yeah. Always good to know how
all
someone
right,
can progress.
let's go. Let's do this. Next. All right. Answer the internet. Would you accept $1 million? $1 million.
$1 million.
To be deported from the U.S. You can never come back, but you get to take one person with you. So you and a person get $1 million and have to leave, but you never get to come back.
Oof. So many things wrong with this question. Why would I want to leave the greatest country in the world?
I know.
And be
with all our
deported?
issues, we're
never allowed to come back. I mean, I have lots of great family and friends, but I'm sorry. They wouldn't visit me across the United States, let alone leave the country to come visit me. So I just to say goodbye to everybody. On top of the fact that $1 million doesn't get you anywhere anymore these days. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you were to say, oh, it's okay, I'd be rich the rest of my life. Well, if somebody were to suddenly plop $100 million in your lap or whatever, yeah, okay, that's a different story altogether. But when you're talking about just $1 million and the inflation rate and taxation, and depending on what country you went to, it probably wouldn't go very far because thousands of different factors, no.
Well, so listen, $1 million outside of the U.S. is a lot of money. I mean, if you went to the Philippines with $1 million, you're like almost a billionaire in certain parts of the Philippines. So, I mean, it depends on where you went. If you went to India, there are places in India where if you had $1 million American dollars, you're like a multi-millionaire. Like,
right.
So it does depend. So that's hilarious. By the way, the Charming Navigator says, "Hey Warrior, just wanted to say thanks for the entertainment and company during my Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes days. He quit a few months ago after being a long-term Dolphin, but he always appreciated style and content. I appreciate that. He also says, SureShot, you seem like a groovy dude. Love the dichotomy between you guys. Awesome." And then Bassreich says, "I'm with you on that, SureShot."
Well, speaking of groovy, I instantly go back to Ash and Evil Dead. So the first thought that comes to my mind whenever I get a compliment, even special like that, is always, it's a trick, get an axe.
I know, right? So with all of our faults, and trust me, every country has pros and every country has cons, right?
Oh, yeah.
You'd
be silly not to acknowledge them, yes.
Absolutely.
But
every
to assume
country
that we have more than good is also ignorant.
Right. But every country has opportunities to make better, and every country has strengths. And I would say that, in my opinion, I have not lived in any other country, but I have seen we as Americans bring in more people immigration wise than like 100 other top countries in the world combined. So I can't see why or how everybody else from all these other countries would want to come to this terrible, horrific country if it didn't provide that.
If it was as bad as the media would like you to think it
equal
is.
opportunity, right? It's not equal outcome, right? It's not equal outcome. It's equal opportunity. It says if you come here, you have an opportunity at doing something for yourself. You still have to, do it for yourself.
You have to put in the work. You have to strive. You have to make it happen.
We can't, save everyone, but we can bring a bunch of people in, and we do. We bring millions every single year in, and we give them that opportunity by, making them legal citizens, and they're, fleeing lots of different reasons. But I feel like those people wouldn't be coming here if they were like, well, the United States is trash and there's not equal opportunity. They wouldn't be coming from all over. So I know I wouldn't leave that opportunity to go somewhere else.
If it was
even if there was, I mean, I think France is cool. I think that, Canada's cool. I think Mexico's amazing.
Let's turn that question on its head, though.
But I don't think I'd want to live there
forever. If you gave me $1 million to go live somewhere else for a time, like say 10 years before I could come back, heck yeah, I'd like to remove my ignorance about some other countries and about situations that I've never been previewed to and haven't been a part of. If I could go over, I mean, obviously going over there with $1 million would be a pretty cush way to go about it. But if you were to suddenly flip that around to, oh, you had the option to come back, you're only visiting for a time, or say you can only keep the $1 million when you went and lived somewhere else for 10 years, and then when you came back, you got that $1 million. That would be something. But yeah, I think this question definitely works better for somebody else in a different country who'd be like, well, heck yeah, I'd get the hell out of here. If somebody gave me $1 million to do it, that'd be a perfect out. But I think knowingly leaving this country to go somewhere else, I mean, there's still good countries out there and plenty of places I'd like to go visit and experience their culture. But under those circumstances, no. If I could change the question around to suit my needs and purposes, well, of course.
And I think this is the other thing. I think I could be strangely surprised if I was forced out of my comfort zone into another country and I was forced to live somewhere else. And I could live somewhere and go, wow, I had no idea. This is just this amazing. Mm-hmm. And I love it here. And I think I would be surprised, but in my comfort zone, the living here and having the opportunity that I've had, I came from literally nothing. My mom had nothing. My mom worked her butt off. We were raised destitute, poor, and I had no dad, destitute and poor. I didn't get to go to college. I never got to go to college. And I just worked as hard as I could. And then I still don't have a degree. And I just worked really, really, really hard, and I'm articulate. It's just a God-given gift. Like, that's not something that I have because I'm white. Like, I didn't get this because of the color of my skin. I just have an articulation capability. It's in my brain.
It didn't show up in the mail with your privilege card?
It's in my brain. It's not like, I mean, that would be literally racist for someone to like say, well, because you're white, you're articulate. That would be really, really racist. For them to assume that I'm articulate because I'm white. That's super disrespectful. That would be horrific for someone to say that. But that was the gift God gave me, was the gift of tongue, in that sense that I have the ability to speak in a way that helps me. I've used that in sales, as has my Hispanic friends, my Black friends, and some of my other white friends that I have here in town. And we all do well for ourselves because we're using our gift of gab in sales, and we all do well in sales. And it has blessed our families tremendously because we're using that gift, not, my Black friends don't use their skin. My white friends don't use their skin. My Hispanic friends don't use their skin. My one Filipino friend doesn't use his skin. We all use our mouths, the gift of gab, in sales to make money. Because in this town, a degree doesn't mean a whole lot. You know that. This is a weird town.
I am a degree holder, and I can sit here and tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt that my degree has gotten me nothing in life, and it literally has nothing to do with what I'm doing now.
So unfortunately, in this town, you got to find where you can make money. And for us,
not to say that was a complete waste of time, not by any means. There's definitely some things I learned through that, and some stuff that I can bring with me. And yes, to an extent, I can say that it's helped my business sense and what I'm doing with my business, but I've never gone into an interview and somebody said, oh, well, you happen to have a degree in business management, you're hired. It's like, it's never been that like, oh, just that easy. There you go.
Yeah. And I don't have a business degree, but I run a multi-million-dollar business right now. And I have to do P&L statements, profit and loss statements, and I have to hire and fire. And
respect to anybody on that spectrum, with or without a degree. If you've made it happen, if you've gone out there and made yourself a better person and you are successful because of it, then good on you. Not good on your degree, or not good on you for saying screw the college system. Yeah.
Now that may prepare you. It may prepare you very well. It may not have either. So
nothing's really taken. Nothing's given me what experience has given me. That's for sure. No class, no amount of money that I paid for a piece of paper that says I'm smart has given me anything like life experience has. And I had to go out there and get that. None of that was given to me. For sure.
All right. Well, number 2 for you. Let's see where we're going with it.
Next life lesson. Answer the internet. Okay, here we go.
That's
good.
A good one.
Hey, let's bring this right back to the level of comedy that we're used to here now. Would you rather fart only... 180 topic change here. Would you rather fart only once a year,
Ooh.
but it's the worst smell in the world, and you smell for 2 weeks?
Oh, a 2-week fart? A 2-week fart?
Or fart like you do now, and it doesn't smell, but colored gas comes out of your rear. And that last one rhymed, but I won't. So fart the worst fart you ever have, and it hangs with you
for 2 weeks, or fart like you do now, just casually, like maybe like once a day or something, and it doesn't smell, but colored gas comes out of your butt. I would rather have the colored gas.
You know how much fun you could have with that? I'm sorry. As childish as that is.
I think, you know what? I don't fart a whole lot like at work or anything like that. It happens mostly like when I first wake up or whatever, and maybe like at the end of the night if I'm sitting watching a little TV.
If you're like me, it's like, oh man, a couple of days of bad gas and then back
honestly,
to normal again.
I think the majority of any farting I'm going to have happen is going to happen at home. So I would rather not be banished from whatever for 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't want, that would ruin me.
You'd be living under the porch for 2 weeks. Let's just say it.
That would be terrible. I would rather just have the colored gas. And then if I knew I was going to fart, I'd just like go into the bathroom.
I mean, there'd be plenty of situations where that'd be like horribly embarrassing.
Somebody's like, the bathroom is glowing. What's going on in there? Oh, there's a gas leak.
There's a red mist. I don't know what's going on. It just, I mean, okay, so then that begs the question too, what color would the gas be?
Oh, what if you could choose it?
I mean, right? If it was like a customizable thing, you know? I want mine to come out in rainbow colors.
I would choose yellow.
I want it to come out in a flame job.
I would choose yellow.
And it'd be real mustard gas, and wouldn't it?
Mustard gas.
But then it wouldn't smell. I mean, you're kind of losing a little bit there by it not smelling. But you know,
what is going on? There's yellow gas in the air.
Call
COVID's
taking on a color.
Call the energy company. I think we're gonna die.
Believe me, if you can see the gas, if it's got a color, then you're much worse off than just, we should call somebody.
Aldry, what up, brother? He's saying hi. I hope all
Good morning.
What's up, brother? Oh my gosh.
The worst smell in the world for 2 weeks, or all your gas to come out colored.
Oh, man. The Charming Navigator says, give me the 2 weeks all day. I'm a sneak attack abandoned, and he doesn't need people knowing.
I mean, you have to plan that out a heck of a lot. Both of them you have to plan out. Because, I mean, really, like you're in some, like, I can just picture like a big group interview or something like that. Or you're, in some kind of a conference or somewhere that you'd really want to be, but yet all of a sudden, oh no, not now.
Bastrike, answer B. If I picked A, it would be horrible. The whole area would turn into a kind of a Walking Dead environment. Oh, that's hilarious. You know what, though? If you dusted enough, if you like pick brown,
right,
as your color, that would be horrible, by the way, because it could smell like poop and look like poop. But
no, it wouldn't smell though if it was a color.
But if you pick like gray or brown and you just dusted a ton, like it would just be hazy, and people would be like,
"Why is your whole house painted brown? That's so
why is it
odd.
hazy in here? You need like a air purifier,
right?" I feel like I'm walking through LA. What's going on?
Yeah, why is it so misty in here? Why is it so misty?
I feel like it's a haze.
Wow. Yeah. Why is it so misty in here? What is this?
Of course, what would be even more funny is if you could pick your color. So I decided that I wanted to pick purple, but every time I did fart, Jimi Hendrix would pop on. Purple haze up in my...
Now, they didn't answer the question as to whether your farts stink or not.
They did. Yeah, if you
No, the bottom one. It would just...
It wouldn't smell.
Oh, it wouldn't smell.
Yep, just be colored gas.
Yeah, colored gas is fine, bro. I don't even care. Because people care about the smell. They're like, that stinks. But,
think of it this way. You're in a concert and you have the worst smell for 2 weeks, you could clear the whole venue out. If you're in a concert, you would just be adding to the effects.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, who's got the color?
Who kicked the smoke machine on? Yeah. We ain't got those up here, bro.
You're all...
What they didn't say, though, is if it made any noise.
And it's like...
I mean, sure, smell and color are one thing, but I mean, like...
Hear it. People wouldn't even hear it, though, with the, like, booming bass.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it'd be like... perforating the air, and they'd be like, oh man, look at the yellows and greens, this is dope. And they're like, yeah, what's up? And they have no idea. They're just like inhaling your butt fumes.
Yeah, well, let's not even go into the science of that. That's just not for this show. But I mean, really, if you were going to go
Poop
for A,
particles.
I mean, if you had the worst smelling gas ever, I think to match that, wouldn't it be great if you could actually have like a literal rumble, like you'd shake a 5-foot radius around you and make this horrific noise on top of that? Because I mean, if you're going to have it for 2 weeks, you might as well make it worthwhile.
Get your lapel mic. Put the lapel mic back there.
If I got to deal with it, so do you. I mean, you'd have to make it entertaining in some way. Otherwise, that would just be a terrible affliction.
Oh, that's wrong.
Oh, man. Moving out of the gutter and back onto something a little bit more, well, probably worse. I don't know. Let's see.
This is worse. This is a hilarious question for everybody who's here. Everybody
it's just
who's
going
here,
downhill from here, guys.
Yep.
Prepare yourselves.
This is a reward for everybody who's still on. Oh, man. This is a would you rather. I suppose this is just like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like you can't choose a good one.
Most of these are, but
they're both of these are horrific.
at least we can make light of some.
Okay, I got to play each one of these out. Okay,
I'm going to do this through the art of interpretive dance.
yeah. So question one or answer A is going to be: would you rather change genders every time you sneeze? You grow boobs, though you're a female now.
I don't know. With this political environment, people kind of are. But anyways,
That is true. So would you rather change genders? So you're a man, you're a woman, you're a woman, you're a man. Every time you sneeze, and I sneeze a lot, so I'd be like, that would be scary to my clients. They'd be like,
I get a sneeze like every 2 weeks. This is terrifying.
I sneeze 3 times, so that would be weird. I'd be like a guy, girl, and they'd be like, what just happened? And I'd be like, I have to sneeze a 4th time. Hold on.
Because my problem would be that if I would sneeze, I get stuck there.
I know.
If I only get one like every 2 weeks, like, well, this is going to be interesting for a while.
So you're changing genders every time you sneeze. That's horrific, by the way. That would not work well for me. I do not want to get stuck in the wrong gender. I don't want to be a female. I'm sorry. I love females. I just don't want to be a female. Or not be able to tell the difference between a donut and a baby. Is it a baby or a
donut and a baby?
Start eating a baby.
Homer would be screwed.
Dude, you brought donuts over this morning to us. Oh, yeah. We start eating them. My wife walks in. She's terrified because she sees you and I just casually eating babies.
Oh. Well, some countries, no.
Pizzagate. She's like, and I knew it. You guys. That's horrific. I would have to just choose not being able to tell the difference between a donut and a baby and then just not eat donuts ever again.
That is a screwed if you do,
that's
screwed
a
if you don't
gorgeous
situation.
baby. It's a donut.
I mean, you know what?
I know, I'm just joking with you.
If and like I said, Homer,
Rick.
what the hell? Exactly.
That's the most messed up question ever.
I mean, we got to think about this in like cartoon fantasy world type of mentality here, because if you go too real with that, that's just, I mean, you're morbid and we'll probably get along great. But the problem with that is like, as I said, Homer Simpson would probably have a real problem with that, but it might almost be the greatest thing that ever happened to him, because if you can differentiate now going, oh, well, now that I know that, I'll never touch a donut again. And not to say that, that they're very bad for you. They are tasty, but, that's something I could cut out of my life. So I think if I had to pick between the two, because, this is a would you rather, and since it's a hypothetical in this way, we are forced into making an answer or making a choice.
I wouldn't tell the difference between a donut and a baby. That's what I chose.
Yeah, I would definitely have to go that route, because that I can mitigate. That I can figure. I can say, cool, I can write donuts off for the rest of my life now, so I don't have to have that weird conversation with somebody as to why I accidentally ate their baby. So,
and then you're like, oh, your baby is so cute. And they're like, it's a donut. And you're like, I know, it's just a joke. It's just a joke, dude.
I couldn't tell anyways.
It was just a joke. I was just messing
like
with
I
you.
said, if I, at the rate that I sneeze and I only get one, that would be an interesting 2 weeks, because I'd be stuck there for a while. Where did Jake go? Oh, did that happen again? Here, let me get some pepper or something. We got to get you back.
Yeah. Bass Rake says, we already get weird question here, but it's on the top 5 weirdest. Yes.
Yep.
That's definitely top 5 weirdest.
We're all about breaking down barriers and destroying paradigms here, I tell you.
That is
thinking outside the box, even though the box sometimes is bad enough to be in the first place.
Yeah, weird question.
Weird question indeed. But I mean, points for creativity to some extent. I mean, it's a little bit morbid, but it's definitely a creative one.
Yep.
Let's see if we can top that one. I mean, not that this is going to be a one-up game, but the rate we're going, let's see here. Would you rather go into a coma and not wake up until you're 75 or die tomorrow. You suck the air out of the room. Thanks, question.
I know. That one sucks. By the way, Charming Navigator says, dude, it's got to be A for him. He'd rather, on that previous one, he'd rather change genders every time he sneezes. The stakes are much lower for a cannibal carnival.
I get you. I see where you're coming from.
I'll just carry feather and pepper. That is such a good one. That's hilarious. And then Matt B says, I'd choose donuts. I'd have to choose donuts and jelly filled. What's the difference, dying tomorrow or having to be in a coma till you're 75? I know, right? So if you die tomorrow, it's just over. It's finite. Boom, you're done. If you live to if you're in a coma till you're 75 and then wake up at 75, I mean, some people can live until they're 100. So if you wake up at 75, they've kept you in a pristine state, in a pristine vegetative state till 75.
I would say that's just the word, vegetative, bed sores, having to have complete muscle atrophy for that point. I mean, you would have to spend the next 10 years getting to walk again, probably.
Yeah, I would still take age 75 so I could at least have 5 to 10 years. I would probably I would hope 5 to 15 years with the opportunity to be able to travel, even if I was like wheelchair bound because of atrophy of muscles and stuff. I would be able to travel and be able to try to see grandchildren, great grandchildren, try to reconnect, maybe see a few things before I died. It would give me an opportunity to see like the world, like what happened, what's gone on before I have my day of death. I would much rather at least get just that little bit of time of reconnection before, because if they said tomorrow you're dead, like I don't have enough time. I can't physically get a hold of everybody and like say goodbye. Like it would just not be enough freaking time. So Aldry says that is a quandary for sure. And it is. The Charming Navigator says 75 at the very least. He'd have some, the future to meet his whole family. And that's exactly right. That's what I said. Bassreich says, I'm 49, so there wouldn't be too long. But for an 18-year-old kid, that'd be a tougher question. And I agree totally. I'm in my 40s as well, Bassreich. So for me, it'd be like 30 years in a coma and then boom, it's like, okay, so that's horrible, but at least I get some time. And you never know. I mean, that happens to people. So I'd rather take the coma. Aldry says, I'd like to live and die on my own terms. That's a good point. The whole forced die tomorrow.
I think I'm more on par with Aldry here. I like there's power and there's control in knowing when you're going to die and choosing that for yourself. So I think in most regards, I would definitely die tomorrow. I think I go off of the studies that have shown that people have, even though while being in a coma, there was still some level of awareness. You were still awake and aware to some extent, and to be immobile and non-communicative and being able to experience some of the world passing me by for that amount of time, I would probably go insane by the time 75 came around. I probably wouldn't be a worthwhile enough human being to kind of come back and revive myself. There's plenty of amazing stories and miracles and all that, and I'm definitely one that knows about miracles that are still happening to this day. Yep. But I think under those terms, in this fantasy world that we're living in right now, I think I'd rather have the power of knowing that I could choose that life that would eventually drive me insane or destroy my life or die tomorrow. I think I'd rather be remembered as I am now as opposed to a vegetable for the next 35 years. Yeah. No, for me, that'd be longer. But anyways, that's definitely a, that's another one. That's another great, great head scratcher for sure.
Yep. Yeah. The irony would be as if you woke up at 75, got up, went outside and got hit by a car.
You're right.
And didn't even get one day.
To get my life started again.
You get like 2 hours at 75. It's like, that would be the irony of getting to choose your own time. It's like death is like, I'm coming for you.
Wake up in an actual fascist state and the Third Reich has come back and made a full-blown recovery. Oh, yep, never mind. That was a waste of time.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, you could take that so many different ways, and I like being able to expound on that because these guys thought these were simple questions, but they just had no idea that Warrior and SureShot were going to get a hold of them.
Yeah, I know. Now these are, oh my gosh, this is devolving. This is devolving more.
I warned
and more
you guys.
and more.
I told you. Here it goes.
Oh, I have read this question and I put it back over and over and over because I was like, I can't read this.
Oh.
I can't read this.
Is your hand being forced now?
Yeah, it's being forced now. Well,
at least you guys got the context. We knew that this was wrong. We were going to try and take it out initially, but now we have no choice. I'm sorry. We could not possibly take this card and just throw it off screen.
At some point, it has to be read so it can be put in the discard pile.
Let's lay this one to rest.
Well, we're going to lay a gerbil to rest.
Uh-oh. Richard Gere, no.
Are you ready? Matt B. Aldrich, Charming Navigator, Bass Reich. Are you ready? Do you want $5,000 or $10,000? For $5,000, you need to bite the head off of a gerbil who's living. Bite a live gerbil's head off, and you get $5,000. Or
like I'm waiting for the other one here.
You need to take care of it, feed it, have it as your pet, and then bite its head off after it's been a pet of yours for a year for $10,000. That's horrible.
It's always so easy to take the neither,
Just grab it, bite its head off while it's living for $5,000, or keep it as a pet for a year, totally take care of it for a year, and then bite its head off for $10,000. So take care of it for a whole year, doing everything you would of a normal pet, and you get double the money. And we'll just put
this
you have to do one or the other. That's
exactly. We'll put this out there right now. I mean, no, across the board, I'm not going to bite the head off a gerbil. I'm not that horrible of a human being. In this hypothetical world that we're living in currently right now.
Pass.
Yeah, exactly. Pass on that one. Yeah, easy, easy. If I am forced into this decision, because sometimes in situations and circumstances you are forced. Why in the world, for only $10,000, would you nurture something and take care of it and grow to like it, and then have to turn around and bite its head off? Why not just get it over with right at once?
Yeah, you have to be masochistic. You'd have to want to hurt it for the extra money. You'd be like, ooh, I want the
I think for both our sakes, because I could just mention those little gerbil eyes look at me like, I thought we were friends.
That's just wrong. So if I had to choose, because it's just a choice of necessity having to choose, I would do
for the sake of argument or discussion.
Bite a head off for $5,000. But this is a horrific question. This is really wrong of them to even make this as a card.
I'm a hunter. I take animals for meat, but even I am not into animal cruelty. It's going to be swift. It's going to be a nice, righteous aim and good shot so that it's a clean death, not a masochistic, I'm here just for bloodlust type of mentality. So nothing about that one.
The Charming Navigator said $5,000. I'm a sucker for cute animals. I'd probably get to a year not having the stomach for biting its head off and end up with no money and a bloody gerbil.
Exactly. Exactly.
Ouch for each choice. Aldry says, I wouldn't do either, but with a gun to my head, the 5,000 choice. Mm-hmm. That's my
Exactly. It's like a Band-Aid.
Point.
Just get it over with.
I know. That's just
horrible as that sounds.
Yeah, if they were like, we're going to kill your family and you have to do one of these two things, or we're going to kill your family, I'd be like, all right, give me the gerbil.
See, that throws a whole nother caveat onto it. If we're talking just purely money here or whatever, I mean, I think for all of us involved, how easy is it to walk away from a situation like that? For one, I'm taking that gerbil so you can't let somebody else make the horrible decision. But two, no.
Now, if it was $5 million or $10 million,
how good is that money going to feel with that kind of conscience? Not to say that there's some big, deep-rooted meaning. Don't get me wrong.
Hold on, I'm just changing it up. Like $5,000 is dumb, but $5 million could change your life forever, and it's one gerbil, and you're just taking it out of its misery really quick. I mean, you could eat it. So really, you're just killing it in a very unique way.
Putting a price tag on a gerbil's life.
$5 million, and you just bite its head off. You could eat it. It would be a small snack, but you could eat it. You'd feel better.
They didn't say anything about eating it.
Could you imagine if he was like biting you as he's like trying? He's like,
he's a fighter. I like it. You didn't go down without a fight. Good on you.
Oh man, that's just.
I feel better about absorbing your soul now. No.
Your soul is mine. Mortal Kombat.
Flawless victory.
We grew up in the wrong generation.
To which I say, get over here.
Hey, They're all still alive in the pandemic because they all wore masks.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
Audrey. That's funny.
Yes, trying to make light of a horrible question. I think we're all on the same page here. What the heck?
Charming Navigator said for 10 million, I'd start from the back. Fatality.
I mean, I guess we all have our limits, right? I guess when I've watched all these documentaries about all these like 19 to 21-year-old, fresh draft picks for the NFL get, $200 million plopped in their lap for a couple of years or whatever, and then suddenly they're broke in a couple of years. It's just boggles my mind, knowing what I know now with that kind of money handed to me, the things that I could do for other people and for my family and for everybody else with that money without just wasting it on stupid, frivolous stuff. It's like, I think we all have our limits, but I don't think anybody's going to offer you $10 million for biting a head off a gerbil. There's got to be something else going on there.
Got to be.
Unless you're a politician or whatever,
Let's
and
get
get
to
ready
a better
to be ruined
question.
because they can videotape you or whatever doing it.
This question was just wrong from the beginning.
On to bigger and better things.
They did terrible with the money. Like, seriously, whoever wrote it would literally do it for $5,000. That's why they wrote it for that.
Well, it's like almost
Whoever it was,
almost
it's
too
wrong.
absurd for somebody to offer you $10 million to bite the head off a gerbil. That's kind of ridiculous. But there could be some sadistic rich guy out there who just gets his jollies off on seeing somebody else be put in a situation like that. Like if you
Offer it to a homeless person, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You had $5,000 suddenly flash in your face just to do something like that. Just a quick, not necessarily simple, but just a quick act. That's Freud would have a heyday with that one. So, would you rather be a world-class dancer, world-class singer, or a world-class fighter?
Oh,
I know what you'd pick.
yeah. Dancer.
Exactly. We all pick dancer.
Fighter, of course. I mean, I think that would be super awesome. For sure. What's up, Icy Hand, by the way? Give it your best year ever.
The gerbil's best year ever. I mean, yeah, it'd be pampered. That would definitely be a gerbil that would not go down without feeling like he lived a full life.
Yeah, I would be best fighter ever. I think that would be fun. I mean, best dancer would be kind of cool. Best singer would be kind of cool. But ultimately, I don't really care about either one of those. I'm not super amazing at singing, and dancing was once upon a time. And I was never like the best at it. I mean, I still know how to dance. In fact, I went to a wedding and I just started dancing and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you know how to dance? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, holy crap. So I would pick fighting just because I enjoy that now. My body's so broken.
I don't know how to dance. I am a dancer.
Yeah. My body's so broken, I couldn't do that, but this is a theoretical, so I could do whatever I want. So I would definitely take that. Bassreich says singer, so that's kind of cool because you could do whatever you want. Singing technically is loosely defined. So
this is where Bassreich and I agree again.
Yeah.
I think, and there's always caveats to that because I like to try to think of the full picture and ahead of just the initial question, but I have no interest in being a dancer as much as I am not a bad dancer, as I've also showcased on weddings and nowhere else. Because something about the reception, it's just where you kind of let it all hang out, especially if it's an open bar. I mean, come on. Anybody can dance at that point with enough liquid courage. No interest in being a dancer. But out of the other two, from a functional standpoint, if we're headed towards a world that I feel like we're heading towards right now, it'd be much more in my benefit to be a world-class fighter, and for so many other reasons, not only least of which is just to be able to use that to protect the people that I love and to use that for good. But in a good world, in the world that should hopefully keep on continuing past all this ridiculousness, I would be much better off as a world-class singer because I really enjoy singing. I don't have a half-bad voice. Pat myself on the back there. But to be a world-class singer on top of that, I could use that so much more, and I would have much more confidence to get out there and actually do something with it as opposed to just singing at church once in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's kind of it's a two-parter in a sense where, well, depending on where the world goes in the next 5 years, I would rather be a world-class fighter. But if it turns out better than what I hope it's going to be, then I could much more utilize a better singing voice, especially if somebody could give me the right tools to be able to keep that going as opposed to probably a lot of bad habits that I keep on a regular basis that are not conducive to singing voices.
Yeah, interesting. For sure.
But that's a much better one. I feel a little bit more uplifted now. Not to mention, I think everybody else is kind of chiming in with some better answers as opposed to, I don't know, let's see, go from biting the heads off gerbils to...
So Audrey says fighter. He said singing and dancing are awesome, but fighting you can live with you forever and maybe defend others if necessary. I also just think for me, it's like, it's like the warrior trait inside. You're like metaphorically fighting, whether it's spiritual battles or physical battles or emotional battles. Like I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter, and I don't know, fighting is just like in my blood. So, but I love Kempo, I love karate, I love judo, I love jujitsu. So anything like that, I've always loved that. When I was in law enforcement, when we did, FBI tactics, that was fun. There's just lots of different things like that I really enjoyed. I do enjoy singing. Other people don't enjoy my singing, but I enjoy singing. I enjoy
let's
dancing.
be honest. The reason why I answered it that way is because I'm already a world-class fighter. I just need to go that extra level to become a world-class singer. So,
Bastrike says he's too handsome to have his face smashed.
See, there you go. Another good point.
And then the Charming Navigator says fighter, but only because after 5 beers, I already think he's the best singer and dancer anyway. Unfortunately, after 5 beers, he's still aware that I couldn't kick his own butt. It's true.
Yeah.
True.
No, unfortunately, I've been forced into a couple situations in my life where I laid the hurting down. I have been beaten severely in my life as well. I'm actually a 2-fight boxer. I do have 2 actual sanctioned fights under my belt, and I am a 1-1 record, and I'm okay with that. And I ended on that.
And you walked away. You're like, I'm 50-50.
I am 50-50. The first fight, I held my own against a guy who had 2 years of experience on me, who was actually being trained by a world-class boxer in Dallas, Texas. I guess there's bunch of them out there. Didn't know that going into the fight. I was basically a write-in because 2 other fighters had backed out of this particular card before me, and the guy who was part of this fight crew who was doing this big event needed somebody else to fill that fill that card. And ironically enough, 2 of the guys that were supposed to fight me beforehand, one guy knew me and backed out. Couldn't tell you why, didn't know him. The other guy decided to rough up his girlfriend the night before the fight and got arrested. So it was kind of a situation where we needed somebody to fill in that spot pretty quickly. I stepped in without much experience and did so much better than I thought I would. But that guy was a definitely good fighter. He had a lot of stamina, and I got a couple of good solid square hits on his jaw, whatever, that knocked him out, which is why it went to 2 rounds. But otherwise, he finished me off because I had too many unanswered punches. So I guess they consider that a technical knockout. But
Aldry says that's true. He used to wrestle in school, and he had that kind of mentality. I never wrestled in school, like for the wrestling team, but I wrestled because of my brother.
I could never
because
get into
I had
wrestling.
an older brother, and he wrestled me every day. Like, I mean, literally for my life. He used to pin a chair on me, and then he would sit on the chair, and I couldn't get out from underneath.
Me and my brother were not into wrestling. We did do a couple of body slams and some grappling and that, but mostly it was just bare knuckle fist fighting. We really blooded each other a lot. And
my brother liked the WWF, and he would literally be like, the crab, and
yeah, exactly.
I'd be like,
from the top rope.
Yeah, and he believed in that.
Gras.
He believed in that crap like it was real, and it wasn't. But it hurt like hell. Like it was real to me.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, that stuff's fake. I'm like, it's not fake. It's not fake.
As
it hurts.
orchestrated as it is, it's definitely synchronized dancing, but it's definitely massive dudes throwing each other around on not soft surfaces and jumping from ridiculous heights. And there's lots of pain involved.
They move those. Like when they put the other person in the crab, they go to a point and then they stop. My brother didn't understand that, so he's just like and cranking on me, and I'm like, you're breaking my damn back, like you got to be careful. But Matt B says I'm more along the same lines as SureShot, but I've got a bar security and loss prevention background, so I've been in a few fights in the past. I've been in a few fights in the past.
My second fight was righteous. We went 3 rounds, and it was we were both exhausted afterwards, but I did eventually knock him out. He went out cold by just dropping his guard, and I connected with his jaw just correctly, and he went over. But that was the perfect time for me to quit because I had suffered a concussion during that fight too, and I was just like, you know what? My brain is more important than wanting to go on and continue with this type of side project that has nothing to do with my career or making me any money. So that was pretty easily dropped. It was more like, nope, I've had my fill. That's enough.
See you, Charming Navigator. You got to go. I understand it's 3 a.m. where you're at. That's crazy. So see you later, brother. You have a good time.
Kudos to you for sticking with it.
I know, 3 a.m. where he's at. That's all the way on the other side of the world. All right, so last question for me, and then we'll go to your last question. For me, if money didn't matter, so remember, it's not about money. Would you rather be the first pick in a draft and have to rebuild a really bad team, or be the very last pick and and go to a really, really good team. So you get to be the first pick in a bad team or the last pick in a good team.
Ooh. That's difficult because I've found with so many other things I've done in my life, when I play against somebody who's better than I am, that increases my skill level exponentially. But usually just for that night. Kind of like I rise to the occasion when I'm forced into it, but then I go back to normal after that, and it's kind of weird that it was a fluke thing to happen. But there's also a lot of pressure being the first round draft pick, going to a team, with that expectation of building them up and, taking them somewhere and doing something worthwhile with it. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. But of course, he chose that. He wasn't drafted. So, I mean, that's a completely different scenario altogether. So, I guess
basically they're asking, do you want to be the leader of a bad team and try and make them something, or do you want to go to a really good team and you're not very good, but you're going to go to the really good team?
I don't claim to be any worthwhile, amazing athlete, and as much as I feel like I'd be a good encourager and help out, and I can always plug into a team and I can learn and adapt and all that, I don't think that I am the kind of person that would be able to walk into somewhere and change the whole dynamic and be a force for good to bring somebody back from the brink. So I'd much rather be low on the totem pole, brought into a big team and surprise everybody and blow their expectations out of the water.
Nice. You'd be a last pick. I would be the same thing. I don't want to be a leader on a sports team. I'd rather just be the last pick, go to a really good team. Because team is team, right? So it's about everybody pulling
their weight. There's definitely some good teams and bad teams when it comes to talent level and what be done with that. But when you're part of a good administration that actually encourages these people to work out well and to do what they're supposed to, and you have good leadership in the coaches and management staff and all that, then you can definitely increase somebody's skill level with that.
Think about the expectations too. Yep. I mean, if you were the top dog, the expectations would be so heavy on you, it would be just unnerving.
Yeah, you'd be remembered as the guy who came from nowhere and then brought the team up to greatness, as opposed to the guy who had this high expectation and then was now dogged for the rest of his life by being horrible and universally panned. So yeah.
So Icy Hands says last pick. Bassreich said last pick. Aldry says last pick. Bassreich said to be in a good team and improve your skill. Matt B though says it's all about building up the underdogs, not necessarily about his skill level, but more about building their teamwork. So interesting concept to go in and try to be a good leader. So Matt B, natural leadership, just wanting to go in and through his leadership would probably bring about change in a good way.
Oh yeah. Had I been, again, if I was forced in a situation like that, I would do the best I possibly could for that team to try and fulfill that expectation. Absolutely.
Yeah, his phone's sending the message over and over, which is funny. That's okay. I'm only reading it once, so you're all good. It's okay if it sends it out.
No glitch on this end. But yeah, there's definitely two sides to that coin, obviously. But I think when it comes down to expectation versus outcome, then yeah, I would definitely want to be somebody who had no expectation of him and then surprising him, as opposed to coming in with this huge expectation and then not living up to that.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I remember the story I was going to tell.
Nice.
Yeah, it popped up.
Haha. It's always terrible when it's just like, oh yeah, that'll be good for the live stream. Live stream comes.
Except I want to grab the item for the live stream. So why don't you chat for 1 second while I go grab it?
All right.
So
I can give you the question so you can think about
question,
it.
I'll think about it. They can start to answer while you chat, and then I'll go grab it really quick.
All right.
Because I think I know where it is.
So would you rather know every time someone talked about you over text,
about me.
over text, or every time someone talked about you out loud? So would you rather know about it both ways, but have it be over text, or have it be someone speaking it out loud, like hearing the conversation?
Well, I think that's interesting, because how do people communicate more about me is the question, really.
Exactly.
Do they talk more about
How
me?
secure are you in yourself?
Do they talk more about me by text or by person? And I think, honestly, crap is spoken more, not through written form, but orally. And so I think that more people would actually talk smack orally by face-to-face, voice-to-voice, if they were going to. Because they wouldn't want it like, oh, look what he said. Look what he said. Look what this guy said to you about you or whatever. So I wouldn't care about text messages or whatever. So I'd rather hear them talk crap about me orally, like actually be able to hear what they said verbally is what I would want. But I'll be right back. You guys answer, and you can go ahead and do that. I'll be right back.
Discuss.
Discuss.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to me because, no matter how you think about it, someone's talking crap about you. So, I mean, that if that was already a complex for you, then I think this is just kind of an agonizing question no matter how you think about it, because both are terrible. Why would you want to know? I think there's a lot of things in my life that I realize that I'd rather be ignorant to as opposed to knowing about it, because I think that I have gotten to a healthy point in my life where I don't really care what other people think about me. I mean, sure, the people that I love and the people that I know and that I would care about that because I put effort into, my social standing with them or whatever. But I think overall, it's just nice to be able to read a question like this and just go, you know what? I don't care what people are talking about me, what kind of smack they're talking, because I know for myself that it's either not true or it's probably embellished or it's just their opinion and that's their right to have. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't have to go much further with that question, only that I think if I had to pick between the two, because of course, that's where we're at with this nice little fantasy world that we're in. Or as I like to always quote Bob Ross, in our world, yeah, I would say probably hearing it out loud would be worse than over text. Text is sneaky and covert and probably holds with it more, or takes with it more weight. But yeah, I think I would have to go with, would you rather know every time someone talked smack about you over text or every time someone talked about you out loud? Maybe over text, because if it was over text, it had to be thought about. It had to be conjured up. It was something that people take some time and effort to put into as they're typing it out, as opposed to out loud. It might be off the cuff. It might be out of emotion. It might be out of just that set of circumstances, so it wouldn't really carry a whole lot of weight and gravity to it. So, yeah, that's an interesting. What are you guys saying about this? Oh, yeah, Audrey with a good team for the last question. With a good team, there would be the good chemistry and atmosphere. I would like that kind of environment. Agree with you on that one. Basket was B. Matt B, yeah, technically don't care either way. Good on you. Definitely didn't need to worry about that kind of stuff. But if you had to choose, it'd be spoken, not text. See, yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you there. Just spoken can be fleeting, can be a moment of emotion that you didn't have time to think about. Text is usually more vindictive because you thought about it and you still took the time to write it and send it. Audrey, yeah, I would rather hear straight from the source. Text message may not be convey the true meaning. Exactly. Do we find it? Did it happen?
Yep.
Yep. Icy Hand agrees. And Base Rack, you've got a good point, SureShot. Yeah, I guess again, overall, you don't need to worry about what other people think about you. It's just interesting when you take that question and break it down, you can find a little bit more meaning there and a little bit more evil intent, I guess you could say, with a text message as opposed to something being spouted out loud. So, what did we come up with, Warrior?
Got it.
Got it? Cool. We got the object lesson ready for this here story?
Object lesson. Yeah.
We were getting existential with that question.
Very cool. What was it again?
Would you rather know every time someone talked about you?
Yeah.
I was making the point that if it was over text, it was thought about, it was typed, it was sent. It's more malicious. It's something that you hold on to more, whereas something spoken out loud is usually out of emotion or in the heat of the moment or when you weren't really thinking that clearly. So if you did have to worry about somebody talking smack about you when you shouldn't, then probably text would be a little bit more rough compared to just spoken out loud.
Text may not convey the true meaning, where he'd rather hear it straight from the source. So he'd rather actually hear it straight from the mouth versus texting, because texting can be misinterpreted. So I would rather hear it from the voice as well. So that's another really good point, Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
two sides to every coin, you know.
That's true. So that is all of the questions that we have. By the way, remember, if anyone's watching this after the fact, and you're wanting to participate, any of these 10 questions you can answer through the comment section down below once this is not live anymore by going through. Bastrike says he's changing his answer to A on that one. He'd rather hear over text, apparently. So, but I have a funny story. This actually came up because my wife is going on a trip with a friend here in a couple of days, and she's flying. And so we were talking about flying and going through security and all the different changes that have happened recently.
Anxiety ridden on a normal day.
Yeah, but like what has happened with like security and what you can and can't do and things you can take on the plane. And I was mentioning to her and them in general that I don't know if you saw it, but there was an article that they are taking from people 300%. It has gone up 300% the amount of guns that they are finding on people.
Really?
Yeah. So, and the problem is these are people that didn't normally carry guns and didn't know you couldn't carry guns. But how many guns they normally catch, people trying to take on to a plane, is not very many. But that amount of guns that they normally capture nationwide for people trying to carry on, which is pretty low, is up by 300 times. So if that was
brings up a great point, because as much as I love the fact that in these ridiculous times, there's been more gun purchases, and like we've been broken records with how many new guns owners there are out there.
Yeah.
The problem with that is I've grown up around guns my entire life.
Right.
I've been taught safety. I know how to properly handle a gun. I have the right amount of respect for them. The people who have not been through that, have not gone through any formal training, and they just go out and get one thinking, well, that's the thing to do to protect yourself, and don't talk to somebody who knows or go and practice with that and train on a regular basis, you're doing a huge disservice to the cause and to yourself. So
oh yeah, for sure.
Get educated on that. Get training. Gun safety should come back in schools. I can't say it enough. This is where we teach the kids the proper respect for them right then and there, as opposed to waiting for it to be a big problem later, like we have.
Yeah, Matt B says flying these days. He's moving with his wife and daughter to Taiwan in October, and they have a layover in Hong Kong. Ugh.
That's a big move.
Yeah, that is. So anyway, we were talking about that, and I don't know what the number is. I didn't see the stats, but let's say they catch 100 guns every year in carry-ons. Mm-hmm. That's up 300%. So it's like 400 guns they've caught on carry-ons. I don't know what the number is, but it's up by 300%. And what that means is there's a lot of new gun owners that didn't realize they couldn't carry on, and they're catching them. And I just read that article, and it surprised me. And I just like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of new people that are like scared.
It's exactly like the time when I talk to people who don't know anything about hunting, when I tell them that you have to go through a hunter safety course and you have to buy a license in order to go into the woods to carry a gun to hunt an animal, and it has to be that specific animal you have a tag for.
They're like, what?
Their mind is blown. They're like, you don't just go grab a gun, walk into the woods and start shooting animals. Like, what in the world? No. Whatever gave you that idea? That's ridiculous. That's not good conservation at all.
Yeah, well, so we're talking about their trip, and we're talking about flying and stuff, and how things are going to change, and so I told them about the article I read and about how everybody's bringing a lot of new gun owners are trying to bring their guns on, and it reminded me of when I was in BUDS, BUDS Basic Underwater Demolition SEALs. So when I was in SEALs training, and that was back in the mid '90s, '96 and '97, and back then, that was before 9/11. Mm-hmm. Before 9/11, it was a different world. You could carry onto a plane almost anything. And my story is going to prove this point.
Even back then, though, you still couldn't bring a gun onto the plane unless you checked it through baggage claim.
But you could do a lot, and I did, because that's where this story comes. It's pretty crazy. So this was 97. I had come home for the holidays in December 96. I was already in BUDS. I had been issued what is called a Mark I Mod 0. It's a knife. It's basically like the Navy SEALs version of a K-bar. Mm-hmm. And it's all
a knife that we've decided to give to everybody that we will die on a hill for.
Yeah, except for the K-bar looks a little different. The Mark I Mod 0 is a Navy SEAL knife. It's all black with black. It's like a black sheath that goes onto your thigh. It straps onto your side. And you use it while you're swimming. And we would like to say that we use it so we can kill sharks, but in reality, it's there to cut kelp off of ourselves when we're doing ocean swims for the most part. I mean, like when I did ocean swims, we'd get kelp wrapped around us and we'd pull it off and cut the kelp off. I mean, there'd be huge kelp.
It's more of a tool than a weapon.
It's a tool. Yeah. That's what knives are. They're tools.
Yeah. Guns, knives, all tools.
They're all tools. But we were all issued a Mark I Mod 0, and it's like, this is an extension of oneself. This is part of who you are, and you have it, and you need to take care of it. You need to sharpen it. You need to, it's like a part of you. This is you, kind of thing. Always make sure you have it with you. You've got it clean. Blah 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 blah. So I had it with me, and I traveled back. I flew back. I stayed for the holidays. I had an extended holiday because I did recruiting I had 2-week vacation plus a 2-week recruiting vacation. And then I flew back to go back into SEALs training. And when I was flying back, I went into the airport and I got to screening, and they're like, empty your pockets and all of that. And so, I'm like, unstrap, take it off, plop. I had it tied to my thigh. I had it on my belt.
Wearing it properly.
Yeah. Wearing it properly. And I had this thing. My Mark 1 Mod 0 I had on me, and I stuck it into the carry-on.
They're looking at you like,
And they looked at me, and I was like, oh. And so I pulled out my Navy SEAL ID, and I showed her, and I was like, oh, this is just my issue knife. It's no big deal. It's just my Mark 1 Mod 0. It's no big deal. And
normal everyday life for me. What are you looking at?
And she looked at it. She looked at my ID.
I want to see that.
And she went, okay. She let me through onto the plane. Got to the other side of the security, put it back on my thigh, strapped it back on my thigh, put it back on my thigh.
Even back then, though, that's still pretty shocking. I didn't think for a second they would have let you on with this.
And I walked onto the plane, and I sat on the plane with that, that's 8-inch blade, I think, with that 6.5-inch blade. I don't know. I think it's 6.5-inch blade, maybe. See. Yeah, it's 6-inch blade probably, or that's 3.5. So, yeah, about 6.5-inch. So anyway, I walked onto the plane. Strapped to my thigh was a Mark 1 Mod 0, basically a K-bar, in 1997. Went right through security and walked right onto the plane and sat on a plane with a Mark 1 Mod 0 on my thigh.
I think that's a situation of circumstance. I don't think that would happen under normal circumstance. I think they saw your ID and thought, oh, he's got to be official in some way, and let you through probably when they weren't supposed to, because case in point, it was probably even earlier than that. I went to an airport to see my dad off on a business trip, and being kids, we had nothing better to do. We were going to sit around and wait for a while before he left. I thought, well, I'm going to bring something to entertain myself with. Why not bring 2 of my favorite toy guns? And these are yellow guns, mind you, not like safety tip on the orange or whatever, orange on the tip or whatever. These are like very blatantly toy guns. They would not let me pass security to see my dad off with those in my hand. Toy plastic guns. They said, nope, not going to happen.
What time? What year was that?
This is his business trip back when he was working for
Because in 97,
this would have been like...
I carried this onto a plane and went back from Grand Junction, Colorado to San Diego, California. Flew 2 different planes to Denver. I had this strapped on my thigh.
I'd have to check with my dad to confirm, but I think this was like 94, 95.
And they had no problem with it. And they looked at it, they looked at my ID, and they were like, all right, see you.
Had to have been earlier than that. I think I might have been like 7 or 8. So this would have been like 92, 93.
Now you wouldn't dare doing this now. After 9/11, it's
no.
You wouldn't dare do that. They would throw you on the ground. You'd have 9 cops on you.
They're still taking fingernail clippers away from you guys.
They'd beat your face in. They'd take your knife, probably stab you with your own knife.
So in some ways...
Call you a terrorist.
Some of the safety measures we're taking now are good.
Oh, for sure.
I do think that there are some...
I wouldn't want me with that knife on the plane now. No, for sure. I wouldn't want me.
That would not make me feel safe. But yeah, that's such a weird contrast because this was definitely before that. Like I said, it was probably 93, 94, maybe even earlier than that. Because like I said, it was probably like 7 or 8. So it'd been like 92, 93. That I was going to go see my dad off to his business trip or whatever. We were going to watch him fly away and all that. In order to get past the security checkpoint, you had to go to the metal detectors and all that. And literally, very blatantly plastic toy guns were not allowed past that point.
Well, prior to 9/11, things were a totally different world. It was just interesting because when we were talking about their trip and security and all of that, that flashed back that time.
Right.
The time when I walked through security with a Mark 1 Mod 0 6.5-inch knife, a K-bar, and I walked right through security and I handed it to him. And I was like, hey, oh yeah, by the way, I've got this. And they're like,
I think it was just probably pure naivety that was just kind of like for both your guys' parts that somehow allowed you through that situation. Because I think under normal circumstances, even back then, it probably been like, not happening.
My mom was there too. And she was like right at security. She was like seeing me off at security. And she like, oh my God, you have that on you? Like, what are you doing? And she saw security and they were like, go ahead. And she was like, okay. And then she was like, goodbye, and then I off I went, and that was that. And I remember her messaging me later by calling me to see, I think I called her actually when I got back to the base by like a card or something. Because back then you'd buy like a long distance calling card.
Yeah.
I think I called her with a long distance calling card, and she was like, don't ever do that again. She's like, you scared me. And I was like, well, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, we carried it with us everywhere. I carried it in public. I mean, it was like on my thigh all the time. So it was like a part of who I was. It was really impressed upon us. That's like, it's kind of like your weapon is a part of who you are, kind of thing. So, but anyway,
I conceal carry every day, and I still catch myself sometimes with situations.
Right here, you have something I'm touching right now that is.
And only you could do that, man. Somebody else would go for that. They'd probably draw back a bloody stump or a nose, or get drawn upon. You don't do that, but it's something that I have to catch myself on sometimes when I'm walking into a post office, around a school, into church. Well, of course, my church has given me the okay for that, because they like the fact that people are trained with that kind of thing. They like that kind of safety around there, especially not having people know about it. So there's definitely circumstances for that, but it is interesting how it does become a part of you. It becomes a part of your normal everyday life that you just doesn't even cross your mind when all of a sudden you walk into a situation like, oh, wait, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, there's places where you like, for you, it would be difficult because you forget you even have a gun on you. Sometimes it's like subconscious. You just always have a gun, and then you can't go into a school with a gun. But you do, to pick up a kid, you'd almost forget that you have a gun on you because you just.
Back when I was married and had stepkids, there's a couple different times I caught myself with it. I mean, driving up to pick them up or whatever, I'm not gonna go through the whole process of getting rid of leaving it at home, or I do have a lockbox in my truck for that very reason, so I can park in the parking lot, get out, put my gun, clear the chamber, put the gun in the lockbox, and then it's actually safe, and that's the legal way to do it. Because obviously, if you're in a situation where you have to stop in somewhere, you can't just drive all the way home or take it somewhere that's not safe. You secure it in your vehicle to a lockbox that's secured to your vehicle. So I do have that for those situations, but it's definitely something that I have to make sure I pay attention to and be judicious with it.
Yeah, Matt B, it's definitely a different time now. You literally do have to watch what you're saying. You got to be careful. You can't even, jokes are not acceptable at all, not one bit. So you got to be careful when you're traveling. But an interesting, weird time. That was a weird story, but it definitely did happen, and that definitely did go with me on a plane from Grand Junction to San Diego and through Denver, DIA.
No better person to be given that responsibility under those circumstances. No better person for that situation.
Yeah.
But definitely,
I was a warrior that day. I was like, here's my knife. Now let me on the plane.
Walking with your spear and shield like, what?
Yeah. But man, the stories I got is so crazy.
You're not worried barbarians will take over the plane? Well.
Yeah, no one's going to take this plane on. This guy's going to take care of us, but it was weird. Well,
Aren't
anyway.
you glad you have me now.
Thank you all for coming on and enjoying the time today. Got the new game that I am playing a little bit, so I will be tinkering with that game a little bit, maybe doing 1 or 2 videos a week from that game, from the mobile probably, so my voice may or may not match.
If you like the different format, yeah.
But it's going to be a slightly different format. One thing I did learn, if you're watching that on any device and you hit full screen, if you're on a mobile device, it'll actually go full screen onto the mobile device. If you're on like a computer or whatever, it stays in that weird.
If you don't catch yourself, it'll look like you're playing.
Yeah, if you hit full screen and you're on a phone, if I'm streaming from a phone and you hit live full screen, it will actually go full screen onto your phone, which is really kind of cool. I do like that. Otherwise, if you're on like a computer or something and I'm streaming from my phone, it will always look like my phone in the middle of a black screen, which is kind of dumb. But that's YouTube mobile for you. So I wish they had a template for YouTube mobile, but whatever. But it was fun. I had a good time. Aldry, Bassreich, Matt, Ray Rock, Icy Hand, everybody that jumped on the Charming Navigator, he's already taken off, but everybody else who's on here that wasn't, chatting, but everybody else who did chat, thank you so much. As always, you guys make sure you keep your gaming on. Warrior and SureShot, we're out.